what I realized from all of this is basically to try to land jobs that are a learning opportunity. I mean, I'm not complaining about the paycheck. The paycheck is great. But what I realized is every time I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, I actually learned a lot and improved myself a lot. So if there's one thing that you want to take away from this is just try to put yourself in a position where you will learn.
Hi, and welcome to the WP Elevation Podcast. I'm Christina Romero, and on this podcast, I get to talk to Nemanja Aleksic, one of my favorite people from one of my favorite products, ManageWP. He's the head of growth over there and the marketing manager at GoDaddy. And not only do we talk about the roadmap for these products, but we also talk about the WordPress community, as well as how to transition into different leadership roles as companies get acquired, as your responsibilities change, and managing working with remote teams all around the world. So take a listen and enjoy this podcast.
This is the WP Elevation Podcast, helping WordPress consultants elevate.
Hi, elevators. I'm here with Nemanja. He's the two titles, the head of growth at ManageWP and the marketing manager at GoDaddy. So thank you for joining me today as I'm going to pick your brain about a lot of stuff. And why don't you tell people who live under a rock what ManageWP is, the whole essence behind your role in GoDaddy, and who you are and where you live?
Oof, that's a lot of things. Okay, for starters, ManageWP is a service that helps WordPress professionals handle their day-to-day business, which basically means that you waste a lot of time logging into websites, performing updates, doing backups and whatnot. So back in 2010, when we were still a WordPress consulting agency, we had the same problem. We were juggling 200 websites. We had spreadsheets with login credentials, trying to figure out if it's a custom URL to log into WordPress or maybe something changed. So it was a mess. And we tried to find a solution on the market, and there wasn't any. So we decided, hey, let's just build one. And that's how the whole idea behind ManageWP started. That was 7 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, a long time in the tech industry.
Yeah.
And we managed to build a service that helps you log into your websites with one click, perform updates on hundreds of websites with just one action. We got backups, we got cloning, migration, uptime monitor, a lot of bells and whistles are now in ManageWP. And I believe right now that our service is helping around 27,000 people manage almost 500,000 websites.
Wow.
So yeah, it's in a way like you guys, you are actually benefiting other people and your work is helping others. So it's a really exciting place to be. By the way, the whole team is from Europe, Belgrade, Serbia. So right now it's cool 80 degrees outside. It's 4 p.m. And after this, I'm going outside for a walk.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, it's a weekend here too, so I'm going to head out and enjoy mine as well. I'm going to try not to geek out too much about ManageWP on this call. Try to make it about, a lot of the way we can serve our clients with WordPress maintenance, because you guys have given me tremendous freedom in my business because of ManageWP. I have, those monthly client plans that sort of secure a retainer for me every month. I don't have to worry about where my income's coming from. So it truly has been such a painless way to manage websites, and I'm going to try not to plug it too much on this podcast.
If possible.
If possible. So speaking of that, you guys have done such amazing things in ManageWP since the release of Orion, like tons of major milestones. What's further down the road in your roadmap there that you're hoping to tackle within the next year based on suggestions from people like me who made suggestions? What are some of the main things that you're looking to kind of improve upon?
So before I touch on that, I just got to say, and we'll probably get back to the whole acquisition story later. Just for reference, ManageWP was acquired by GoDaddy in September last year. And what's happening right now is that we're actually, in a way, diverging. In one direction, it's ManageWP that's focusing just on WordPress website management and maintenance. And on the other fork, it's the GoDaddy equivalent of ManageWP that's focusing more on overall education, overall, let's say it's basically trying to cover all the needs in a day of a pro. So instead of just focusing on website management, it's also got client management, lead generation, a bunch of other tools that just make pros' lives easier. That being said, let's talk about some of the things that we have on our roadmap right now. You've recently seen, if you're using ManageWP, you've recently seen the Safe Updates feature, which is basically trying to make the whole update process for WordPress a lot easier. Try to install some safeguards, some checks that will help you if something breaks down. So it will let you know if something breaks down, and it will try to roll back the change if something does break down. So for that, right now we're planning to build a couple of features like automatic rollback for failed updates. Bulk safe updates, right now you have to do them one by one, but if you got 200 websites, soon you'll be able to just click save update and go out, do whatever you want.
Walk the dog, come back. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's one of the features. Another one is localization. We have a lot of users all across the globe, and even if 99% of them speak English, they have clients who don't. And if we're talking about a quality service, like you said, you give your client a monthly report, and if that guy is Portuguese, you would make a better impression if you actually give a Portuguese report.
That's impressive. Yeah.
So these are some of the things that we're working on, and we are also working on the GoDaddy side. We're trying to better integrate into all the other tools and try to build up a whole bunch of things. It would probably be a complete podcast just on what we're trying to do in there, because
yeah, that's true. And it's the GoDaddy Pro he's talking about, and actually GoDaddy Pro is sponsoring this podcast. So we're just really shoving a lot of product placement in this one. We'll get to some other questions that aren't related to pushing product. So that's a great segue into how is GoDaddy helping ManageWP's growth and vice versa? Like, how is the team and what you guys have done helped GoDaddy, and how has GoDaddy helped you guys help that product?
So one of the misconceptions that people had when we decided to join GoDaddy was that it was like an exit for us or trying to cash in. But the truth is totally opposite. We grew ManageWP up to a point where we realized, okay, this is no longer just about website management. If we want to change people's lives, we got to figure out more ways to provide a quality service. One of the experiments we had was actually with hosting. So we managed to put together an MVP for hosting, and it performed really well. But at the same time, we realized that it's basically taking things to another level, and we will need a bunch more people, a lot more experience, a bigger war chest. And that's the point where GoDaddy approached us, and we started talking about the possibility of joining them. And what we saw was that they actually have a whole bunch of people who are really excited about doing positive things in the WordPress ecosystem and in the Web Pro ecosystem as a whole. And once we realized that, and once we saw that what they were doing in the past few years and what they plan to do in the next few years, we said, hey, we want in on this. We want to help you. We want to bring things to the next level. And it's working out fantastically right now, because as a small team from Serbia, We basically learned as we went along. We didn't have big mentors, Fortune 500 companies. We had to figure out everything on our own. And now we have a bunch of people from Silicon Valley that we can just ring up and say, hey, I got a problem with this. What's your recommendation?
Wow, that's really cool. I did not know that you guys were looking into hosting and providing like a hosting solution, and that led to the conversations. That is something else. I did not know that. Well, speaking of you working in Belgrade, Serbia, and them all the way in Silicon Valley, I have the same situation with Troy, where, we're partners in this company of Rockstar Empires, and I'm here on the East Coast of the US, and he's in Australia. So when I wake up, he's going to sleep. And then when he wakes up, I'm going to sleep. How do you manage building? Because I'm seriously asking you, please help me. How do you manage building a business, running a team, when a lot of the decision makers are in such a difficult time zone for that? Like, when do you connect with Vladimir? Like, when are your meetings, and what does your schedule look like throughout the week for touching base with them?
That's also one of the things that we had to learn and adapt, because like I said, we were a local company. So whenever I needed to solve a problem, for example, hey, I need a dev to look into something, or hey, I need a decision maker to make a decision, I would go to them and like tug their sleeve until they look at me. And now we have the same problem. And what we learned is to become more structured, more organized, to put everything relevant on paper. Because when you have somebody in the next room, it's easy. You just go there and just work out the problems in the conversation. But here, like you said, if there's a time delay and you're not sending a clear message, it's going to be a lot of back and forth. So what we realized is document everything, try to make it as simple as possible. And basically that's it. Just make sure you send a clear message so that the person, when they get online, they would respond with a meaningful answer.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's really easy when you're working with someone in person to kind of go off of people's, like, speaking to them in person, going off their body language, or just having a free-flowing conversation, but actually relaying a message when you're not going to be there to explain it. You do have to put in the extra effort to
and it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
It's a huge challenge within a company, and you guys actually have an extra challenge when you're working with clients. At least we assume that we're part of the same company. We know the lingo, we know the general objectives of what we're trying to accomplish. And when you have a client that's, for example, in the United States and you're in Europe, you have to explain all of this to them, and at the same time in a plain language, so they would understand what you're talking about. So there wouldn't be no misconceptions or disagreements down the road.
Yeah, I mean, communication is key to any business running well, right? I mean, that's kind of what you learn after time, is that if you can communicate well and execute well on your ideas, it's going to help grow the company. But poor communication can really sink a business.
I know. I believe that we've all been in these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so WordCamp Europe next year, is that going to be in Belgrade, Serbia?
Yeah.
And how'd you pull that one off?
Ooh, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all.
You just didn't want to pay for a flight. So let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. We organized 3 Belgrade WordCamps so far, and the community has been growing a lot, because the running joke here is that Belgrade is the best kept secret of Europe. It's like, it's a great tourist destination that nobody knows about. It's a great country that nobody visits. So in a way, they call us the best kept secret. And right now what's happening here is that the tech industry is booming. People are realizing that there are a lot of great talent to hire here. And at the same time, our WordPress community is growing like crazy. We have so far, for a country with 7 million people, we have something like 6 meetup groups so far, and growing.
Wow, yeah.
With at least a few hundred people in each. So yeah, we have a vibrant community. We have long-standing engagements with the WordPress organizers. I believe we had 4 or 5 people organizing WordCamp Europe this year. So when we decided, hey, let's try to get WordCamp Europe to Belgrade, well, we did our research, we did the legwork and managed to pull together the best plan, and we got accepted for 2018. So
wow, that's exciting. That's going to be cool. Maybe I can make it out to that one. How are you going to make it out to WordCamp US in Nashville? Are you going to be out there?
Hopefully. No plans right now. I've been to Philly last year and it was fantastic, and I'm hoping to get here this year as well. But the company is like trying to get me on too many business trips this year, so I'm just pushing back all the time.
It's exciting when you first do them, right? And then after a while, you're like, okay, not as exciting anymore. Another kind of work to go on.
My wife is not excited at all.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I don't know, Nashville's kind of fun. It is kind of a unique city, so it would be interesting. That said, my husband has basically said, I don't want you going to any beautiful place without me. I got to bring him along too.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. And make it a trip. Well, I did look at the pictures of Belgrade on Google, and it looks beautiful. Like, you're right. I was like, gosh, I didn't know that there was all these beautiful spots and everything. So hopefully we can get out there as WP Elevation.
Do you plan on a meetup when you get there?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to get a whole bunch of our members together, and we've yet to really put one together in Europe so far. So we've got tons of people begging for a mastermind in Europe so all of our European members can get together and we can hang and do stuff like that, because Troy loves to travel just as much as I do. So I was looking for an excuse to put it on the company dime. Well, that's great. So my last question for you is more of like a personal question about changing roles in a business, because, you know, you've had your own career and then you come into ManageWP and you're building that, and then the GoDaddy thing happens. And I'm sure there's been sort of a like, you know, roles and what you've learned and how you shifted in business throughout the years has sort of changed. So, you know, give us a little insight on what that's been like, and, you know, where you've sort of found your strengths and what, you know, why you've sort of taken on the roles that you've taken on.
Yeah. Well, my story in a way is kind of like a lot of people in the tech industry these days. For example, like you, I was nowhere near the tech industry, even though I liked messing with computers ever since I was a little kid. So I was in telecommunications, and at some point I just decided I wanted to start working with computers. I want to start building websites. So it started off as a hobby, and then when I got a chance to join ManageWP, I jumped on it. And like most of our team, I actually started in tech support because, yeah, we value product knowledge. We believe that, you know, you cannot do anything within a company if you don't understand the users, their needs, and how product helps them. So I went from customer support to being in the growth team. That's basically business analytics, marketing, content, and whatnot. Everything that nobody else wants to do. So I got to a point where I'm leading a 5-person team, and then the acquisition happens, and then I'm suddenly a part of a 5,000 people multinational company. So what I realized from all of this is basically to try to land jobs that are a learning opportunity. I mean, I'm not complaining about the paycheck. The paycheck is great. But what I realized is every time I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, I actually learned a lot and improved myself a lot. So if there's one thing that you want to take away from this is just try to put yourself in a position where you will learn. If a job doesn't help you learn and improve, consider changing it.
I love that advice. That's really good advice. And it kind of helps because each new phase in your life is kind of scary because of, you know, all of these. And I'm sure it was exciting with the role that you've now stepped into GoDaddy, but in some ways kind of intimidating. So the idea of shifting your mindset to making it learning opportunity makes it less daunting. That's a really good advice. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today and for everything, you helped shed light on. Is there anything you'd want to say to our listeners about things they can look forward to within the coming down the pro pipeline for GoDaddy Pro or for ManageWP? If they haven't tried it yet, where do they go to check it out?
Okay, so if you live under a rock and haven't tried ManageWP, you can find it on managewp.com. You'll probably see like a case study for WP Elevation and Christina Romero somewhere in there. We're very proud that you guys are using our product. So the ManageWP itself, you can find it there. And if you're considering the GoDaddy Pro program, which has a lot more bells and whistles, you can find it at godaddy.com/pro. And what I can say is that we have a bunch of cool stuff planned down the road. Number one being the Manage WordPress for GoDaddy. So that's Manage WordPress hosting. We, as ManageWP, we actually contributed to that hosting solution. So when it goes live, it will have some of the features that we pushed for, and it will have ManageWP rolled into it. So it's going to be pretty exciting. And hopefully it will become a great hosting solution for WordPress professionals.
That's awesome. I look forward to that. That's great. And for guys who are watching, if you haven't set up care plans in your business, I'll put links underneath this podcast about the training that we have here on the blog to get you kind of up to speed on creating care plans so you can use ManageWP to actually make money in your business, which is a big deal.
Recurring money.
Recurring revenue. So you're like, wow, same amounts coming in every month, whether you do anything or not. So thanks again for joining us, and have a lovely day now, the rest of your day.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
A sincere thank you to Nemanja for joining me on that. I thought there was some great stuff in there that we can all learn from. There's some helpful notes below this podcast that can get you directed to the links for more information on those products and some of that care plan training that I talked about. So until then, please make sure you like and rate this podcast and come back and join us on our next podcast. Until then, go elevate.